Have you ever felt afraid of freedom? According to the renowned psychologist Erich Fromm, freedom can be a deep source of anxiety and insecurity, leading many people to prefer conformity and dependence over true autonomy. In this video, we dive deep into the concept of the fear of freedom, its impact on modern psychology, and how to overcome this barrier to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. Discover how the fear of being free can cause existential crises, anxiety, and dissatisfaction, and understand the importance of self-awareness and emotional responsibility to achieve true individual freedom. We'll also discuss the dilemmas between security and autonomy, and how to find balance in this very human challenge. If you're seeking personal growth, self-knowledge, and deep insights into the nature of freedom, this video is for you. Subscribe to the channel for more content on psychology, philosophy, and personal development. Leave your comment. Have you ever felt afraid of freedom? How do you deal with this feeling in your daily life? I really want to hear your experience. The freedom that scares, the beginning of the paradox. Imagine this scenario. After years trapped by obligations, family expectations, religions, and ideologies, you are finally free. No one tells you what to do anymore. You can choose your path, your purpose, your values. You are the author of your own story. But why does this long-awaited moment come with overwhelming anxiety? Erich Fromm, one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century, saw a truth many prefer to ignore. Human beings are not afraid of being oppressed. They are afraid of being free. It seems contradictory, but it's not. Freedom carries a complex emotional burden. It pulls us out of the comfort of obedience and throws us into a territory where every decision is ours. And when everything depends on us, so does the guilt. According to Fromm, freedom is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it is the key to self-realization. On the other, it can bring loneliness, insecurity, and a deep sense of insignificance. When we are free, we are also responsible for giving meaning to our lives, and that is frightening. In his book Fear of Freedom, 1941, Fromm explains that with the rise of individualism and the decline of old authority structures like religion or absolute monarchies, people gained more external freedom, but were not psychologically prepared for it. Thus, the paradox arose. The freer we became externally, the more enslaved we became internally. This internal slavery shows up in many ways. Many escape freedom by clinging to rigid ideologies, authoritarian leaders, or robotic routines. Others lose themselves in consumption, seeking in possessions what they cannot find in being. And some live under the shadow of political correctness, following norms so they don't have to think for themselves. But why does this happen? Fromm believed that freedom demands something few are willing to face: the loneliness of choice. Freedom is not just doing what you want. It's being able to live with the consequences of your decisions, even when they hurt, even when no one is watching, even when everyone points a finger. True freedom is a burden. It requires emotional maturity, self-awareness, and a constant willingness to reinvent yourself. And the hardest part, it forces us to abandon the illusion that someone will come to save us. Deep down, what many call the comfort zone is actually a zone of consented self-abandonment. Because thinking hurts. Choosing wears you down. Being free is being whole, and being whole is a daily, solitary work. And maybe that's why so many people prefer the invisible prison of obedience over the uncomfortable vastness of freedom. The 3 escape mechanisms: how we run from freedom. Freedom is not just a right, it's a burden. And when that burden becomes unbearable, humans create escape routes. Erich Fromm identified 3 main mechanisms people use to flee from the anxiety caused by freedom. They are authoritarianism, destructiveness, and automatic conformity. These 3 paths aren't conscious choices. They are deep psychological responses to the emptiness, insecurity, and disorientation that arise when someone is forced to face their own autonomy. Let's explore each one. 1. Authoritarianism, submitting to protect yourself. The first escape mechanism is submission to an external authority. This happens when someone unconsciously chooses to obey a strong figure, a political leader, a religious institution, or a social media guru, so they don't have to think for themselves. This behavior springs from the need for security. When internal freedom causes anguish, handing over control to someone who seems to know what they're doing brings relief. It's the classic, tell me what to do, tell me who I am, tell me how to live. This mechanism can lead to both masochistic submission and a sadistic desire to dominate others. Both are ways to escape the loneliness of freedom. Both are distortions of autonomy. It's no coincidence that from rote escape from freedom during the rise of Nazism in Europe, millions voluntarily surrendered to totalitarian regimes, not because they were evil, but because they were desperate for meaning, structure, and direction. And authoritarianism seemed to offer that, even if at the cost of their own consciousness. 2. Destructiveness, attacking the scary world. The second escape mechanism is destructiveness. If I can't handle the weight of being free, then let the world blow up. This is the destructive mindset. It's anger turned outward, sometimes physical violence, sometimes emotional sabotage. Fromm explains this impulse is more common than it seems, especially in people who feel powerless in life. When someone destroys what they can't control, they're actually trying to escape their own insignificance. Better to destroy the world than be forced to inhabit it consciously. Think of teenagers who break everything around them for no clear reason. Adults who self-sabotage in relationships and careers, or extremist groups that fuel chaos as a form of validation. All on different levels are trying to flee from emptiness. 3. Automatic conformity, dying inside to avoid choosing. Finally, the third and perhaps most common mechanism, automatic conformity. Here, a person simply merges into the crowd. They think like everyone else, dress like everyone else, act like everyone else. They lose their individuality so they don't have to bear the weight of being a separate self. It's a symbolic death. It's giving up the freedom to be unique in exchange for a feeling of belonging. But that belonging is fragile because it's based on self-denial. Deep down, the person knows they're living a borrowed life. And over time, that corrodes the soul. Freedom, from versus freedom, to the autonomy dilemma. Erich Fromm makes a crucial distinction that many overlook when talking about freedom. He separates two types, freedom from and freedom to. In the modern world, most people focus on freedom from, that is, the idea of freeing themselves from something, oppression, poverty, surveillance, control, external authority. This form of freedom is fundamental. It represents the achievement of autonomy from the external forces that limit human beings. But there's a problem. If all you want is to be free from something, and you don't know what to do with that freedom, you become a prisoner of your own emptiness. And this is where freedom to comes in. Freedom to doing something with your own existence. Freedom to is deeper. It means being free to become who you are. Free to love authentically. Free to create, think, choose, make mistakes, and take responsibility for them. This freedom is much more demanding. It has no external culprit to blame for your frustrations. It throws you back inside yourself. That's why so many people, after achieving freedom from something, for example, moving out of their parents' house, earning money, leaving a toxic relationship, gaining professional independence, end up feeling empty. What now? Without someone telling you what you should do, who are you? Without imposed goals, what do you choose on your own? This is the point where many get stuck. This is where the fear of freedom is born. Because now you can no longer blame anyone else. You are free. And this freedom is scary because it demands internal direction. It demands an intentionally built identity. Responsibility as burden and power. Freedom too requires responsibility. And the word responsibility might feel heavy. But, in Fromm's view, it is what makes life meaningful. Being responsible isn't about guilt. It's recognizing that your actions shape the reality around you. It's understanding that you are co-author of your own existence. That your choices aren't neutral, they reveal who you are. Many people run from freedom because it reveals something uncomfortable. Most of the time, we don't know what we want. We are so used to following formulas, patterns, and ready-made paths that when we face the freedom to do anything, we freeze. Fromm argues that to overcome the fear of freedom, we need to cultivate awareness and emotional maturity. We need to understand that true freedom isn't the absence of limits. It's the presence of meaning. Freedom without purpose turns into anguish. The modern dilemma is that we free ourselves from many external chains, but don't learn how to build a why. We are a generation with access to everything, but often lost in terms of direction. We live connected, but disconnected from ourselves. And this is where Fromm's thought becomes urgent. Freedom only becomes fulfillment when filled with purpose. Otherwise, it becomes an existential burden. The society that feeds the fear of freedom. Erich Fromm did not see the fear of freedom as purely an individual experience. On the contrary, he believed that modern society is structured in a way that intensifies this fear, offering solutions that, in fact, disguise freedom and encourage conformity. We live in an era that preaches freedom as the highest value. Freedom of choice, expression, consumption. But what Fromm questions is this freedom real or just a well-packaged illusion? The illusion of choice in modern capitalism. You can choose among 1,000 smartphone models. You can choose your career, your lifestyle, your identity. But how many of these choices are truly yours? Fromm points out that in capitalist society, freedom has become a commodity. People believe they are free because they can choose what to buy, where to work, and whom to associate with. But these choices are often shaped by invisible pressures, marketing, social norms, family expectations, algorithms telling us what we should want. Instead of inner freedom, we cultivate a false sense of autonomy. We confuse freedom with consumption, identity with image, choice with repeating patterns. This false freedom does not liberate the individual from fear, it only anesthetizes it. And when the anesthetic effect wears off, the emptiness returns. Fear as a tool of control. Fromm explains that social systems organized around insecurity, economic, emotional, and existential, make individuals more likely to give up freedom in exchange for security. That's why so many prefer to adapt to an unhappy job, a draining relationship, or an empty lifestyle. It's less frightening than facing the uncertainty that comes with real choices. Modern society offers 3 escape valves, according to Fromm, for those who cannot handle freedom. 1. Authoritarianism, submitting to a figure of power, ideology, or leader who tells you what to do. This eliminates the need to choose and relieves existential anguish. 2. Destructiveness, channeling fear and frustration against the world. Aggression, violence, hatred, and sarcasm are unconscious ways to react to the helplessness of being free. 3. Automatic conformity, becoming exactly like everyone else, adopting standardized behaviors, values, and opinions to avoid standing out, thinking, or questioning. These mechanisms are reinforced by institutions like schools, rigid religions, companies, and even entertainment culture. The different is punished. The obedient is rewarded. Freedom demands resistance to the system. If freedom means creating your own path, then being truly free is an act of resistance. Resistance to haste. Resistance to sensory overload. Resistance to living a shallow life. Fromm invites us to reflect. How many of our opinions are truly ours? How many of our decisions have been made consciously? Or are we just living as if we were free, but deep down, following the script they expect from us? Real freedom requires not only individual courage, but also collective awareness. We need to rebuild a culture where authenticity is valued more than performance, where silence is respected as much as noise, and where being matters more than having. Overcoming the fear of freedom, a call to authenticity. We've reached the decisive point. If the fear of freedom is so deep, rooted in history, culture, and our internal conflicts, then how do we overcome it? Erich Fromm's answer is not found in ready-made formulas, but in an active process of self-awareness, courage, and responsibility. To be truly free, you first have to want to be free, and that includes facing the fears that freedom brings with it. 1. Becoming aware of your own chains. The first step toward authentic freedom is recognizing the subtle forms of imprisonment. What decisions have you made just to please someone else? What dreams have you shelved out of fear of judgment? What patterns do you repeat because everyone does it this way? It's uncomfortable to face these questions, but necessary. Freedom begins when we stop living on autopilot. When we break the cycle of repeating inherited patterns and start asking, does this really make sense for me? Or am I just repeating? 2. Taking responsibility for your own life. Freedom isn't a prize, it's a weight and a privilege. It means that from the moment you choose to be free, you can no longer blame anyone else for the choices you make. That's scary, but it's also liberating. Psychological maturity, according to Fromm, is born when the individual accepts that their life is their own work. This doesn't mean everything will be under control, but that the answers to your pain and searches lie within, not outside. Being free means abandoning the role of victim to the system, childhood, or others, and positioning yourself as the conscious protagonist of your own story. 3. Living with authenticity, not approval. Fromm argues that real freedom is only possible when the individual lives in alignment with their deepest values, even if it means social discomfort. Authenticity requires the courage to be misunderstood, to swim against the current, to seem strange, inconsistent, or too slow for a world obsessed with speed. But it is only in authenticity that the human being finds lasting fulfillment. Not the fleeting euphoria of external achievements, but the silent peace of knowing you are truly being yourself. 4. Building bonds from freedom. One of Fromm's great insights is that freedom does not isolate. On the contrary, when we are free inside, we are capable of loving maturely without attachment, dependence, or control games. Freedom is not loneliness. It is the meeting of wholes. When two people relate from authenticity, a safe space is born where there is no need to mold, hide, or lose oneself in the other. This is the foundation of true love, two freedoms that choose each other every day. Freedom as a journey, not a destination. Overcoming the fear of freedom doesn't happen all at once. It's a daily construction, a process of returning to the essential, of clearing noise, expectations, and masks, of silencing the world's clamor to finally hear your own voice. And you? Have you ever felt this fear of being free? Have you noticed moments when you preferred the safety of conformity over the risk of authenticity? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help others who are also on this journey. There is no freedom without vulnerability. And maybe the first step to a freer life is simply saying out loud, I feel this too. If this content touched you, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who is going through this transition between fear and freedom. And remember, true freedom is never comfortable at first, but it is always transformative in the end.